Okay, we need to finish this guy. So we're going to multiply by 3, everything by 3. So 3 times 1, 3 times this, 3 times this, and 3 times this. Because when you multiply this by 3, those cancel. Nothing cancels over there, so they become 3's. So now we will rationalize it by multiplying by the conjugate. So 3 minus root 3, 3 minus root 3. Now we'll do a giant FOIL. We have to FOIL on the top. So first times first, outsides, insides, and lasts. And the same on the bottom. So 9 minus 3 root 3 minus another 3 root 3 plus 3. 9 minus 3 root 3 minus 3 root 3 plus 3. And then underneath, we'll have 9 minus 3 root 3 plus 3 root 3 minus 3. Remember, when you multiply a radical 3 times a radical 3, it just becomes 3. So we can see some canceling on the bottom. And on the top, these don't cancel, but they do add together, as do the 9 and the 3. So I have 12 minus 6 root 3. And then everything is divisible by 6. So we'll cancel and have 2 minus root 3 as our final answer. So the trigonometry ended here. As soon as you plugged in your values for the tangent, the trigonometry ended. All this stuff here is just arithmetic. Okay, so that took care of the tangent of 195. All right, so now we're on part 2. And I've written a couple of them up here already. We're going to simplify these. So what I want you to do is look at your colored sheet. And these formulas that we're using, the sine u plus v and cosine u minus v, all those, find the pattern that's sine cosine minus sine cosine. So forget the numbers. You're not going to find numbers on this sheet. Look for that pattern of functions, keeping in mind that sine times cosine is the same as cosine times sine. I could turn these around. So this right here, if you look on your colored sheet, is a sine formula. It is one of the sine formulas. And because it's sine cosine minus sine cosine, it's the difference one. It's the u minus v formula. Well, your u is 58, your v is 32, so this is just the sine of 26. That's the answer. This is a formula for the sine of 26. Now, this is the same thing. Forget the 13 and the 18. You aren't going to find those on your sheet. But what you're going to find is tan plus tan over 1 minus tan tan. So tan plus tan over 1 minus tan tan. Oh, that's a tangent formula. And it's the tangent for a plus. So u plus v. Well, your u is 13, your v is 18, so this is a formula for the tangent of 31. Okay, I hope you're getting the hang of this. This one is cosine cosine minus sine sine. Cosine cosine minus sine sine. Notice I don't pay attention to the angles, just the pattern that's there. That's a cosine formula. And since there's a minus there, it's the sum formula for the cosine. This is the formula for the cosine of u plus v. Cosine, cosine minus sine, sine. Look at the paper. Get it right off the paper. Your u is 12x. Your v is 9x. So this is a formula for the cosine of 21x. Now, here's a tricky one. This one is tricky because if you look on your sheet and you try to find that pattern, you will notice that it's not there. But the backwards of it is. So instead of sine, sine minus cosine, cosine, you have cosine, cosine minus sine, sine. So what if I factor a -1 out of this? If I take a negative out of this, then this part will be positive, cosine 6, cosine 10. And now this part will be negative. Before you have any kind of questions or confusion about that, simply distribute this back. If I multiply this by -1 and this by -1, don't I get this? Yeah, it's the same thing. Now, look at just the parentheses. Just what's in the parentheses. That is a formula. That is the formula for the cosine of 6 plus 10. Cosine, cosine minus sine, sine is the formula for the cosine of an angle plus an angle. So that's the cosine of 16. But don't forget, you got a -1 out in front of it, so it's actually the negative cosine of 16. Because when I wrote the formula, I wrote it backwards to be tricky. All right, one more of those, and then we'll do one of the other. Then we'll be ready to go. Here we go. So this one kind of went off the page. It's sine 37 cosine 19 plus cosine 37 sine 19. So it's sine cosine plus cosine sine. So sine cosine plus cosine sine. That's a formula for the sine of a sum. U plus V. Look at the pattern on your colored sheet. So it's 37 plus 19, which would be the sine of 56. So as long as you've got your colored sheet handy, those are pretty easy to do. You just look for the pattern, figure out if it's a sine, cosine, or tangent equation, and then substitute in the U and V from the problem. All right, 3A, last one. Sine, whoops. I'm going to go ahead and change, oh no, I have the hiccups. I'm going to go ahead and change that pi over 2 into 90. And now your job is to break this down using your formulas, break this down, and see if this is what you end up with. This is hopefully what we end up with. All right, so here we go. This is the sine of U minus V. So sine U minus V will be sine of the first, cosine of the second, minus cosine of the first, sine of the second. This is my U, this is my V. I'm just plugging it right into my formula off my sheet. Okay, now 90. We all know where 90 is. 90 is right up here at the top of the circle. We also know, or are supposed to know, that the cosine is the x-coordinate and the sine is the y-coordinate. So the cosine of 90 is 0, so I'm going to put a 0 in right here. So I have sine x times 0, those are multiplied. And the sine of 90 is 1. These are multiplied. So what's sine x times 0? 0. What's cosine x times 1? Cosine x. What's 0 minus cosine x? negative cosine x, which is exactly what we were hoping that we would end up with. Now, when time ran out, we were looking at the next one, but we decided that it was going to be problematic to use tangent 90 degrees on that one. So we're going to pick up 3B, in the next video. Have a great day.